Omaha's news leader, chronicling the stories and people making a difference in our community. This is KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle.
Hey, good morning. I'm Rob McCartney. Primary less than 2 weeks away, and as we've done this spring, we're dedicating our shows to the upcoming election. It's part of our year-long commitment to covering the issues and the candidates running in 2018. Well, we're now on the race for governor. Last week, we talked with Republican incumbent Pete Ricketts and Democrat Bob Christ. Well, today, Democrats Vanessa Ward and Tyler Davis are here, and next week, we'll wrap things up in this race with Republican Crystal Gable. And joining me now this morning is Democrat Vanessa Ward. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
First question, why are you running?
I'm running because I'm ready to be the difference. And I believe people clear across Nebraska are feeling the same. Where people are so disconnected, they feel distrust, and it's dysfunctional with the government. With people now, they want someone with integrity. They want somebody that's ready to step out with courage, and I'm the one.
Well, you were born and raised in Omaha, just a little background. You went to Tech High. You made a name for yourself in North Omaha. And I don't want you to be embarrassed by this. You've received a number of awards, the African American Hall of Fame, Hero in the Heartland by the Red Cross. You've been given a key to the city. You've written a book. You've had a street named after you. What's your mission?
What I learned with all those accolades, they come because of an endeavor that took 20 plus years. So what I learned with that experience and wisdom is that was the most political thing I've ever done in my life. To bring urban, suburban, rural, businesses, institutions, organizations, churches together to a high-risk neighborhood because people had a common goal, that was political. But when policy was introduced, no drugs, no alcohol, and no violence, and it worked, I believe we're ready for that on a massive scale, especially as the governor.
How do you translate what you've done locally to what you can do statewide?
I think the ability to bring people together in a way that they truly want to work for the common goal. I think you're going to have to be a person that knows how to work with all kinds of people, and people feel like they're valued. I think with the way we're doing things from the White House all the way across the United States, people are concerned. We're so divided, and I think that's what they're hungry for, and that's what I claim to bring.
You founded the A Fresh Anointing Church. You're
Yes.
an apostle in your church. What are your thoughts on separation of church and state?
I think that some of the greatest leaders that's ever done anything that's been world-changing had a strong spiritual background. And I'm thinking that when you look at the people and how diverse we are, I think the only thing that really matters is that we show respect one to another. And I think with my spiritual background, I'll probably be a giant asset in that area, especially.
You've been a Democrat since December.
Yes.
Why'd you switch?
I was an independent for a long time because I was so dissatisfied with both parties. But as I started to research and see that the Democratic Party is really in dire need for a champion. So I'm hoping that I can help bring those accolades to that party.
All right, let's dig into some of the issues. What's your plan for property tax relief?
Property tax relief for me basically means that when I'm elected, the first thing I feel like I need to do, and this is the layman's term, clean house. That means rake through that budget, because a lot of times money are being overspent, misappropriated, and not allotted as wise. With my background of being a minority and not having a whole bunch of money, I know how to stretch a dollar. And not only that, I know how to maximize how we can best appropriate it without putting pressure on the taxpayer. That's what I feel like I excel in.
Well, states' receipts, tax receipts have fluctuated this year. Sometimes they come in higher, sometimes they come in lower. They're down right now. We're required by law to have a balanced budget. How would you do that? How would you get that balanced budget beyond just cleaning house?
I'm kind of looking at where are we overspending to the place that we might be able to tighten the belt, so to speak. You know, sometimes when you're used to having a lot, you tend to go right and get what you like and what you want. But if you know how to bargain shop, you know what I'm saying? I'm hoping that answers your question. But that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to be looking for all the ways that we can cut back so that we can minimize, balance the budget, but still not at the taxpayer's expense.
Is there some place that you have top of mind right now that you might be able to cut that you know of?
I'm concerned about one cut that I'm really very unhappy with, and that is education. I'm also looking at how we looking to put Governor Ricketts putting more into prison. I think that if we look more into prevention as far as trying to meet all the overhead. With the overexpanding of prison, I think we could do a lot better. So those are some of the places I'm thinking about shifting. There's also a lot of money that comes into my community on paper, but basically when it trickles down, it doesn't necessarily meet the needs of the people that is allotted for. I really want to try to do a lot of inspection in those areas.
Gotcha. You mentioned Department of Corrections. I mean, there have been deadly fights there. There's staffing shortages. What would you do? I mean, you mentioned prevention, but you still have people who are incarcerated.
Yes, I do. And I've been meeting with several guards because I like to get the inside scoop. I hear what's going on, but I like to hear, what do you see? You're in here every day. And what I'm learning is they're saying that there's a lot of people in there that could be put into maybe rehabilitation centers as opposed to being in with the more violent and massive criminals. And I said, maybe we should be looking at that and investing into the future. Maybe we wouldn't have people feeling so hopeless and then all this massive rioting and thus.
Gotcha. In the budget battle this year, Nebraska cut funding for agencies that perform or direct services for abortion services, impacting places like Planned Parenthood. Your stance on that?
I, at this point, feel like Planned Parenthood offers other services that should not have been cut simply because of the abortion issue. I think that we should have looked a little further into it to see what we could do to continue offering those services to people who can't afford them.
Fundamentally, right to pro-life, pro-choice, anti-abortion, where do you stand?
I knew you were coming there. For me, I wouldn't be here myself, and neither would you, had it been for somebody that took that chance from us. So I'm all for life.
Okay. Immigration debate. Should Nebraska be a sanctuary state?
I would love to see Nebraska be a sanctuary state, you know, without causing any big rifts. I believe that people that come here legally should have a fair opportunity to raise their families and make a living here. And Nebraska is the good life.
If you were a governor and you were asked by the president to send troops, the National Guard, to patrol the Mexico border, would you send Nebraska National Guard troops?
I would send the National Guard troop anywhere that our leadership would ask us to, and then also have a very, an intimate conversation with our leader, making sure that he's aware, or she is aware of what are you asking us to get involved with. So there would be nothing that I wouldn't do, that I wouldn't be holding even our national leader accountable.
There is a petition drive right now, and we don't know if it's going to be successful yet or not, to expand Medicaid in Nebraska. Your stance on that? We
need to make sure that every Nebraskan is able to have affordable health care, of course.
Would you sign the petition?
I definitely would.
Now, have you signed it yet? Have you seen it?
I've seen it, but nobody's been able to hold me down. But yes, I would sign it.
Thoughts on proposed tariffs against China? I mean, they're talking about how it could definitely impact Nebraska producers.
I just wish we could just think things through before we act sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Because this is hard on our farmers, both large and small. I am so concerned as I go across the state. I'm just concerned about our state and how this is affecting us. Not to mention, we're the breadbasket of the world. We need to think things through before we make such hasty decisions, in my opinion.
So you'd be opposed to the tariffs?
I definitely would.
Okay. Let's talk about gun control arming teachers. Where do you stand on that?
No.
Why not?
Because well, number one, everybody can't shoot. Can I say that? And then accident. The educators are there to educate, not protect. Okay, so no. What
would you do then to solve the issue of school shootings?
I would definitely probably have to do a little bit more about metal detectors. And I know first thing, where you going to get the money?
Right.
That's why I'm coming through the budget.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm looking at every shooting that correct me if I'm wrong, but there's always been some kind of warning where somebody could say that, let's start getting into more prevention, paying attention. Before we start arming people in these areas. I believe if we would pay attention, just going back to my neighborhood and what I accomplished, when I started communicating with my neighbors, hey, good morning, smiling and things, people began to talk. We shared. We found out where the dope man's house was. We found out where the trouble areas were because of communication. A lot of times we're not paying attention anymore, and I would like to see those values reinstated.
What do you think your chances are?
Very slim according to what people would say, but very high with the readiness of people. They're ready to make a difference. They're ready to be the difference, and I'm so excited about that.
Why do you think people are not giving you much of a chance?
I think a lot of times people tend to judge by the outward extremities and money, and we need to stop. Money does not define your character or your ability.
Okay. Well, we don't have much time left. I want to give you a minute where you can address directly your potential voters. So it'll be right at that camera right there. Go ahead.
Okay, I would like to say, first of all, thank you to everybody that I have talked to in the grocery store, the gas station, and all across Nebraska. Kearney, you were so welcoming and so loving. Grand Island, awesome. Scottsbluff, I'm still trying to get out there to you. But let it be known, if you're ready to be the difference, because you know that it's going to take your involvement and you're ready to get behind a leader that will listen, understand, and then act on your best behalf, vote Vanessa Ward for governor of Nebraska. Thank you.
Okay. Vanessa Ward, thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you.
Up next, it's Democrat Tyler Davis. You're watching KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle. Welcome back. You're watching KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle. This morning, we're talking with two more of the 5 candidates running for governor. And joining me now is Democrat Tyler Davis. Welcome this morning. And tell me, why are you running?
Thank you for having me. And I'm running to stop Nebraska from becoming the next Kansas.
What do you mean by that?
So in Kansas, they cut taxes so radically where they had to cut services. And we're watching our current governor follow the exact same strategy as Sam Brownback.
Because Kansas, correct me if I'm wrong, is in a little bit more of a dire straits financially than Nebraska is. How would you make the difference? I mean, you can say we have more money than Kansas.
So I think the difference is to propose clean budget bills, to be honest with you. When you tie social issues to budget bills, it becomes very partisan very quickly. And it divides instead of unite, and I would never do that.
Gotcha. Okay, your background, you teach at UNO, the Emergency Services Program?
That is correct.
What is that?
So it's disaster science, it's emergency management. We teach young professionals how to be emergency managers, or also first responders, because it's all related. It's all related to the National Incident Management System or the Incident Command System. Mm-hmm. It's the national recipe for disaster management.
So what does that mean? I mean, what do you teach exactly?
So I teach legal and political foundations. So we want students to understand, emergency management within the state and within the United States, and as well as on an international perspective. And then I teach the National Incident Management System, and it's a complicated methodology, but it shows the order of first responders. And ultimately, what we want is we want to be able to, save lives, protect property, and then get the money that's expended for disasters back from federal reimbursements.
How would doing that parlay into being a strong governor?
You know, I think being an educator is good for any elected official, to be honest with you, because you get to see the impacts of policy on individuals' lives. For example, I have a lot of dreamers in my classes, so I get to see that perspective. And then I'm also an entrepreneur, so I'm not just an educator. I own 3 businesses here in the Omaha metropolitan area. I think that's a good quality to have for governor. And our current governor says he runs Nebraska like a business. Well, we need to run it like a startup, not like a big corporation.
What are your businesses?
So I have Protective Security Advisors LLC. That is a security emergency management firm. Okay. We do uniformed law enforcement and civilian security. Mm-hmm. There's Flatwater Emergency Management Technologies, and we're creating and innovating technology that just does not exist for first responders. You mentioned earlier about school shootings. Well, you really want to be able to get a roster as fast as possible when something like that happens, and we're developing technology like that. And then the other entity is just a holding company, and that's where the management side works of profits and losses from both entities, and it's where the management team that gets together and strategizes.
You recently said here on Newswatch 7 you have a problem with the state Democratic Party. For example, you're not on its website of candidates. Yet in October of last year, Nebraska Party Chair Jane Klebb said, quote, "We love Tyler Davis." What happened?
What happened? So I refuse to take corporate money. One thing that the Democratic Party wants is money, and if you look at what candidates are raising, it's nothing, right? I'm just not going to sell my soul to represent the ultra wealthy special interest corporations, and ultimately just be a puppet. I'm not that type of person.
Do you think that handicapped you severely?
Yeah, it did, for sure. But you got to have integrity. And like I said, I wasn't going to sell my soul just to be able to run for an office.
You filed a complaint with the Secretary of State about Bob Christ changing parties and running. You think it's a symptom of the system, or do you think it was against just one particular candidate?
What do you mean by that?
Well, basically, the reason you filed the complaint, is it because of how the whole thing is set up, or were you specifically going after Bob Christ?
No, I thought he cheated. And, Vanessa Ward and I, we had already kind of been set in the political process because we waited for these deadlines. And there's certain candidates that have certain amounts of money, and some of us are privileged to have that kind of money. And, we waited until December 1st, it passed, and then you could tell that the party had some other plan B in place. We didn't know what it was, and it was the Bob Christ switch. I'm happy I didn't spend the kind of money that I could have to really try to get across the state, because it would have been a waste of resources. But I felt that it was unfair, that it was wrong, and that he found a loophole. And, the conclusion from the Nebraska Supreme Court also agreed with that there was a loophole. And I just, I have no respect for politicians that use loopholes to advance their policies or political offices.
Okay, let's dive into some of the other issues. Property taxes, what would you do?
So we really do need to get property tax relief here in Nebraska. I think we're the 6th highest in the nation. So there's several things that we can do. We have the Nebraska Advantage Act, which is kind of like a corporate welfare program. And I think we need to restructure that. There's really no data available to understand how this is, creating jobs for Nebraska, and then you have estimates all over the place. So we need to do a study, and then we need to restructure it. And then I also think the state formula for education, it's the Tax Equity and Educational Opportunities Act. We have to restructure that. It used to work, it's been tweaked over the years, and now what we need to do is we got to make sure that the rural communities have the tax relief that they need while not ruining their educational opportunities for their children.
Governor Ricketts proposed a 2% across-the-board cut this year, 4% for next year, starting next year. Is that the right way to go about business across the board?
No, so those kind of cuts are just opportunistic, and you want strategic cuts. So you want to go in, you want to actually analyze what you're cutting and make sure that it's adding some type of value to state government over to taxpayers. And I think if you just go across the board, it's just opportunistic, it's an easy way to go about it, it's less infighting, it's the wrong thing for Nebraska.
You have said that you want to build an expansive Silicon Prairie in Nebraska. How do you do that?
You need public money. So as an entrepreneur, you really have two choices. You can go to angel investors, or you can go to venture capital, or you can just be independently wealthy, but most people aren't. And what we need to do is have some type of public investment where we get these startups up. And once we get going, I think you're going to see the venture capitalists from the East and West Coast come into Nebraska and say, hey, look, they're right in the middle of the country. This makes sense to be a technology hub, because it does make sense. But there has to be some public investment. We have to show that there's a proof of concept and that it works. It's all hard work. It's an assumption, but it's worth trying, because if we don't, then Nebraska really is going to be the great desert.
There are some partnerships already between universities and startups. I mean, how is what you're doing or suggesting any significantly different than
public money? That's the biggest aspect of it. So when you go to the university system, Scott Tech, for example, right? And I'm assuming that's what you're referring to. Mm-hmm. They're not getting the dollars from public sources. You have an entity that's helping mentor entrepreneurs to get them to the next level, and it's all about networking and knowing the process. I'm talking about hard cash being given to startups to be able to actually go out and build the technologies or whatever services they're trying to do to get off the ground.
There's a petition drive to expand Medicaid in Nebraska. Where do you stand on that?
For it.
For it. Have you seen the petition? Have you signed it?
I have not seen it, and I have not signed it, but I am for it. I definitely, since I've been on the campaign trail, have met many people that are suffering. And a lot of these people, they're working class individuals, and the system just stops a little bit too short, and they're faced with bankruptcy, lost a job because they're trying to take care of somebody that's ill. And I think we can do a better job. We have to do better. But at the same time, we just had this huge job and tax federal plan act, and we don't know how they're going to offset the services. And that's one particular function that could be cut, and it's something to think about.
It's like 1.3 trillion, I think, is out of Washington. Department of Corrections facing critical issues right now. You got the fights, you've got staffing shortage. What's your plan?
Right. So I've actually gone out and I've met with people that work in the Department of Corrections. And it really comes down to simple things. The employees are overworked, mandatory overtime. That gets hard for employees over time. The work-life balance really does not exist. And what happens is when you bring in new people and you hire them for more money than the people that have been there for 20 years, that's not very motivating. And we've done that over and over again. I think that was actually just corrected where, employees that have been tenured finally did receive an increase, but you need to make sure that we're treating people fairly, especially if they've been there and they're somewhat tenured. And then I really think we got to let low-level offenders out, right? We're spending too much money to incarcerate people. You have what you call debtors' prisons where people can't afford bail, and maybe they're fines, and because of that, they're incarcerated. And I just don't think that's the solution for Nebraska. I think it creates more societal issues, and we're better than this.
You mentioned Dreamers in your class earlier. Should Nebraska be a sanctuary state?
I do, personally, but I think that's up to the voters of Nebraska, to be honest with you. I think you might find it here in the metro areas where you have that mentality, but once you go to central and western Nebraska, that will quickly fade. So that's a tough sell in Nebraska, just to be honest, but personally, yes.
Would you send Nebraska National Guard troops to patrol the border?
So I'd have to see the proposal, to be honest with you, but more than likely, yes. I have family members that live in Texas. I've seen, what it's like to have unprotected borders, and it is a problem, and it's a legitimate issue. So I do think we need to do something to solve that.
All right. Want to just give you a minute now that you can address your potential voters, so it's right there at the camera. Go ahead.
This one right here, right?
Yep, right there.
My name is Tyler Davis. I'm asking for your vote. I want all Nebraskans to realize and understand that I'll be a loyal representative of the people, not special interests, not corporations, not the party elite, but represent the people. If you don't vote, you don't matter. I know that sounds harsh, but the only time that we're actually equals as human beings is at the polls where we get to cast a vote. So I ask you for your vote on May 15th. Thank you.
Tyler Davis, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Up next, we have some final thoughts. And first, a reminder, your comments, they are a very important part of the show. Love to hear them. And if you want to be heard, email them to news@ketv.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back to this special Commitment 2018 edition of KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle. Well, next week, we'll be talking with the final candidate running for governor, Republican Crystal Gabel. Today, Democrats Vanessa Ward and Tyler Davis were here discussing their points. You get their interviews along with the ones we did last week with the Republican Governor Pete Ricketts, Democrat State Senator Bob Christ. You can watch all of them online at ketv.com. Just click on the Chronicle tab. We do have some reminders now about the upcoming election. If you want to vote early, you can do that at the election office right up through May 14th. Of course, that's the day before the primary, which is Tuesday, May 15th. The reason we're doing all these chronicles, we want you to be as informed as possible when you cast your ballot. I'm Rob McCartney. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here next Sunday morning. No, you're fine. Yeah, I'm good. You ready? Okay, in 3, 2. Good morning. We're continuing our series of chronicles dedicated to the upcoming election. We're now on to the race for governor. And joining me this morning are Democrats Vanessa Ward and Tyler Davis. Both are relative newcomers to politics, so who are they? Why are they running? What would they do for you if they're elected? And what are their plans for tackling the big issues facing the state right now? Getting answers to those questions and more this morning at 10 on Chronicle. We'll see you then.